Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome. Today we're going to do an unboxing of Tank Eastfront, the easy-to-learn, fast-playing, tactical World War II combat game from Lock and Load Publishing. Let's jump in, take a look at what's inside, and offer some impressions. As we get started out, a word of thanks to Lock and Load Publishing for sending along this review copy for us to look at. I'm excited to dig into this one for a couple of reasons. When I put up the video on Top Solitaire Wargames a couple of months ago, a lot of people posted comments saying, what would you recommend for getting started with wargames? And so I've been kind of on a quest to look at introductory wargames, games that can introduce people to the hobby. In particular, looking for good introductory hex and counters war game. So as a candidate to make a list like that, I'm particularly looking at this game here, Tank Eastfront. The other thing I think also with a game like this is a lot of times, if you're getting together with friends, you don't have the 3-4 hours sometimes to play a full war game. You might have an hour or less and you're looking to play something. So a game like this, I think could fit into a shorter time slot, a weeknight evening, if you've got work the next day and something like that, you don't want to stay up late. So let's jump in here and take a look at the back of the box with that in mind. Playtime is 20 to 60 minutes, so it's fast playing. That feels about right given the number of units that I've seen in scenarios and things like that. And it feels like it's certainly not going to last longer than an hour. So a fast playing game. Complexity is listed as a 3. That feels about right. There are a number of unique kind of edge case rules for different types of units, which is interesting. So I would not say this is a simple game, but I'm wondering if I might actually give it a 2 out of 10 rather than a 3 out of 10. Certainly not higher than a 3 out of 10. Solitaire playability is a 7 out of 10. There's only one mechanic where how many action points you get per turn that you don't know until you kind of play through it, but there's an easy solitaire adjustment for that. So solitaire rating gets a 7 out of 10. There is no AI bot, but there's no hidden information and things like that other than that action point number, but there's a solitaire way you can handle that. So players listed as 1 to 2, and then ages 10 plus, I think if I had kids that I would, like a daughter or son I'm trying to introduce to wargaming, I think you might even be able to go a little bit younger than that if your daughter or son has some determination to learn and you're willing to kind of spend some time teaching. So maybe a good one if you've got kids that are looking to join the hobby with you as well. Now, the box here is about 1 inch thick, relatively light. We've got, I think, 2 counter sheets, 3 maps, and some rules and a player aid in here. So, a modest set of components here to look at. And let's get started with the game manual. So the game manual has a cardboard outside, really kind of nice quality here. It's a thicker cardboard outset. Table of contents and then the cover and things like that. Some promotional materials here in the back, and then just a list up of the counters and unit types on the back here. All together, kind of discounting that in the credits page, we have about 10 pages of rules. Now, I did read through the rules quickly. It took me about 10-15 minutes. There is some interesting mechanics in here. It is a tactical level game, so we do have range considerations. We'll talk about that as we take a look at some of the units. We've got range, we've got terrain, flanking positions, and each turn works with a series of action points. You're going to get 2 to 4 action points, and you don't know how many you have when you start the turn, which I like. Even if you're playing solitaire, that's kind of fun because that unpredictable shifting of turns can make it a little bit more interesting when you're playing both sides in a game. So combat is kind of articulated, and a lot of the units have some unique characteristics. So infantry is going to have some particular bonuses. Russian units have some particular kind of restrictions and bonuses on them. So we've got improved positions, special units, command posts, quite a bit going on here, although nothing overwhelming. So again, I think that 2 to 3 on complexity feels about right. I thought initially it might be a very simple game, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like there's going to be some thinking involved here. Then the back half, so the first 5 pages here are rules. The back half of the rulebook is actually the scenarios. So we have a design your own scenario, which each unit, as we'll see, there's a player aid in the game that tells you the point values of all the units, so you can roll up, it says a decent sized battle should be between 250 and 300 points, so you can choose your own forces and kind of design your own there. So a nice little scenario option for adding some depth to the game. But the game does not lack for scenarios. There are 14 scenarios, and each scenario also often has special rules for it. So a number of different conditions here. So a very good amount of depth in the package. I feel like this is it would be a mistake to say that it's a simple game that you're going to just play once or twice and be done with it. You've got a lot of variability to explore with the various scenarios and the special rules for them, and then to design your own. So a pretty good amount of depth and variety here, I think, in the game. Now let's get to the fun part. Units. We have 2 counter sheets. These are full 1-inch units. So another thing about this game, big units, and as we'll see when we look at the maps, big hexes. So let's take a look here first at the German units, and I'll show some close-ups of them. We've got Panthers, Tigers, Panzer IVs, infantry, supply trucks, Wesps, and then we have Hungarian units. About half the Axis counters are German. The bottom third quarter here are Hungarian, and then there's a scattering of Italian units as well. Now the numbers on the, just to kind of give a little bit of an idea on how the game system works, the 3 numbers that we're looking at on the hard units, the leftmost one is the range, the middle number is your defense value, and then the right number is your movement factor. And there isn't an attack factor, as you notice. What happens with the attack factor is it's based on the number of units that are attacking, and then some of the defensive factors that are involved, whether there's flanking involved, whether there's an ace involved. So a number of different little calculations you're making. And then on 2 dice, you have to roll that with all the die roll modifications and equal to the middle defense number or higher. So as we can see, a Tiger having a defense value of 11 being very tough to knock out. The Pumas lightly armored with a defense rating of 8, relatively more easily knocked out there. Now the soft targets, things like infantry here and this armored infantry, have 2 defense numbers. One is for if you're in open or clear terrain, kind of lightly, which is a 7 or depression, and then the 10, the higher one here for this German infantry, would be if the infantry's in woods or a town and some other defensive positions. I think hills as well, they get a bonus on too. So kind of, again, you get a sense that although it's kind of designed as an introductory, fast-playing, simpler war game, there's still a good amount of complexity and thought built out into the system here as well. Let's take a look at the Russian units quickly. A good variety here, T-34s, T-34-85s. This IS-2 gets a defense of 11, a relatively tough unit. We have some markers down the bottom here. So a good amount of counters. Again, they're all pre-rounded, full 1-inch wide. So really nice set. They're double print. They're printed on both sides here too, although there is not a step system in the game. I suppose you could use this backside after a unit has moved in its turn, or you could just kind of pivot the unit to the right a little bit too. Probably want to use the backside, I guess, because there's facing involved. But then we get to the player aids. 1 player aid printed on both sides. This is the point system that you can use to design your own scenario. So handy player aid for that there. And then we get the terrain effects chart, the turn track, facing diagram that counts whether it's front or flank, and then some of the combat modifiers here too. So a nice little handy player's aid that you can use. We get 2 dice, a red die and a white die. And one of the cool things is there are 3 maps in the game, and they're both printed on both sides. Now the way it works, I'll open one up here and I'll show some zoomed out shots of here. Each map is 27, I think roughly 27 by 20 inches on the scale here. Each hex is a little bit under 1 3/4 inches. So again, these are big hexes. Really like the artwork on here. It feels kind of gritty. It looks like almost like photorealistic art here, kind of almost like satellite maps and images. So it's really nice kind of artwork in this. And each map, so this is map E that we're looking at. If we flip this over, we have the same map covered with snow. So not only can you play the 14 scenarios, I think you have the option of playing them as a snow battle or a battle on regular terrain. Right? And I'm not quite sure what the differences, kind of the movement differences and things like that are for the snow campaign. But you've got a variety of maps here. So that's one map there. And again, thick quality. These are thick cardboard kind of card maps here, so not paper. Got a lot of kind of look pretty good durability here for a map that's not a mounted map. We'll take a couple looks at some of the other ones and also some close-ups on the terrain in here. But yeah, these are pretty. I mean, I like these. These are nice. And again, big hexes, big counters, not going to take up a big footprint. So certainly a game that you can fit on any kind of modest-sized table here. And then again, for each one of these, we've got the same identical map, except the snow version of the other side. So you can play either way, whichever you would like. And then we've got a third one, but I think you get the idea with that. And that brings us to the end. Tank on Tank Eastfront Combat. I definitely want to bring one of these to the channel. I want to bring a scenario and play a full scenario on the channel. I think this will make for an interesting video content, and then eventually come back to as well and kind of do a review on it within that lens of fast to learn, fast to play. You know, this is, I'm starting to play a lot more 2-player and 3-player war games now that the pandemic has ended. And one of the things I've noticed is a lot of times, even if it's just a moderately complex war game, it's a 2-night affair, right? Because the first time you play, the first time you get together, there's kind of a learning element, if not for both players, usually at least for one player. And so you kind of get through that the first night, and it's a second night where you kind of get in, you can actually play the game, especially if it's, if it's like more than 2 hours or so. So something like this, you're going to be able to learn it and play it in a single evening. And then when you play it, you can probably play it 2 or 3 times, or kind of play it as kind of a kickoff for a longer game or something like that. So I'm finding, like, as I get into more 2-player and 3-player gaming again, that these games are appreciated for something you can learn and play in a single night. So within that lens, I'm looking forward to testing the system out, getting some 2-player games in and some solitaire games, and then bringing it back, creating a video for a solitaire game, and then offering up some final impressions. So there'll be more content about this coming forward on the channel. Let me know your thoughts. If you have enjoyed this game, this unboxing, but are perhaps looking for something more complicated, we've also done an unboxing on Point Blank V for Victory, a much more complex and involved card tactical combat game from Lock and Load Publishing, but you might enjoy taking a look at that one. So thanks so much for watching. I'll be happy to entertain questions that I can down below, and have a great day.